Hi, this is Roy Worley. Welcome to the interview show that brings on guests from all walks of life. Yeah, it's here that they tell their stories and delve a little deeper into their lives to see what got them where they are. So grab a drink, have a seat, and relax, because this is the Leo Effect.
When was the last time a short movie shook your emotions to the core? When was the last time a short movie caused you to rethink everything you stood for? When was the last time a short movie made you proud to be an American? When was the last time you felt the emotion to stand up and cheer after a short movie? The new short movie, I've Got Your Six, written and directed by Bill Foster, one of the industry's newest and fastest climbing directors, will answer all of those questions. Rarely has there been so much packed into a short movie that when you leave, you'll feel more proud of our American military veterans. A movie that was cast only with American military veterans will have you on the edge of your seat, cheering for our veterans and what makes America great. I've Got Your Six will be hitting the film festival scene soon. Be prepared to drop what you're doing and go see this powerful movie when it comes to your area. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Leo Effects. Today I am joined by a very prestigious guest, a guy that you may have recognized from a certain movie involving a certain superhero, but he didn't play the superhero, he played the better role, in my opinion. But today I'm joined by Jack O'Halloran. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm doing very well, can't complain. It's almost Christmas, so we're rolling up on the holidays. It's always a good time of year.
For sure.
For sure. So I think the first question that we should get out there, have you answer, would be, what do you feel you might be most known for?
Wow. I don't know. I'm pretty well known for boxing, for sports. And, then I'm very well known for the film industry. Superman was a huge movie.
Mm-hmm.
Dragnet was a good movie. King Kong was a good movie. Farewell, My Lovely was a good movie. I've been pretty fortunate in the films that I've done. And now I've written a book called Family Legacy, which is a pretty popular book on Amazon. And we're getting ready to make a movie out of that. So and we're building a studio in Nevada. So we've been pretty busy here lately.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What was it that inspired you to get up and be an actor one day because you were a boxer first, right?
First I played football, then I boxed, and they when I was in my boxing career, and I had just knocked out Manuel Ramos, who was ranked number 2 in the world in LA, and they offered me The Great White Hope to do with James Earl Jones.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was the biggest movie, and I turned him down. They couldn't believe that I turned him down. James Earl Jones couldn't believe it. Prior to that, I was boxing out of Boston, and Steve McQueen did the Thomas Crown Affair up there, and he and I became good friends, and he wanted me to go to work on the Thomas Crown Affair, and I turned that down. And so I don't know, I just didn't feel that I was ready for the industry. And then when I retired from boxing, they came to me to do a picture, Farewell, My Lovely, starring with Robert Mitchum.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think it's about time. So I blame it all on Mitchum.
There you go. Got to blame somebody. And that was 1975, right? That movie.
1975. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy crow! You've been in this for a while.
42 years.
So
40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say that what is your opinion on how movies are done nowadays with all the CGI and stuff? Because you played.
Well, I think that the technology is there to really do some great things, which we're going to do. Mm-hmm. But I think that a lot of it's been abused, and I think the worst part of the whole deal is that you have a lot of NBA guys running the studios today. There's no creativity there. That's why they keep remaking things and stuff. And so there's a lot of independent films being made, and for the better. A lot of creativity is going back into the industry. We're building a huge studio in Nevada, like a 4 million square foot studio, which for the first time, all technologies, all elements of entertainment, from music to streaming to television to films, database, the whole 9 yards will be under one roof. And we're going to put a smart city right next to it because we're looking to employ from 20 to 25,000 people.
Wow.
Which only have to go 15 minutes to work, which is brilliant, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
So we've got a lot of great, and it's something that should have been done like 30 years ago, but we've gotten the piece of property, we've a place to do it, and everybody's on board, so I think it's going to work out very well.
Wow. Now, is that going to be in, like, down in the Strip area, or?
It'd be in Nevada. No, it'd be in a place called Apex, which is about 15 minutes north of Las Vegas.
Right, yep. Lots of sand dunes and things like that out there.
Yeah, we've been given 2,000 acres of property there, so
wow.
We're going to put everything under the sun into one place and put old back lots back in place and for low-budget movies. People will not have to go on location ever again.
That's crazy.
You'll be able to do anything, any movie, anything you want to do, you'll be able to do in one spot for the first time. Be a water body there, be whatever.
That's everything revolutionary.
Will be under one. Yeah, no, it's going to be great.
Do you wish that back when you played Non in Superman, do you wish that they had this level of computer graphics?
Well, you know, when we did the Superman movies, we first of all had to do them in London because they had the stage, they had the 007 stage, which is big enough to do some of the stuff that they needed to do. And we broke a lot of technology rules when we did the Superman film. That's why it's such a great film. You know, we didn't use CGI. They did what they call VistaVision on VistaVision, Zorn Zoptic Vision. And it was long and tedious to shoot it, but it actually worked out terrifically. Like we shot VistaVision on VistaVision, where we had a big 70-foot screen with pole arms coming out of it, and we laid in body molds off the pole arms and had movements to where we were flying around buildings and under bridges, and it came out on film terrifically. I mean, it just it looked like, because you couldn't see any wires, where people wondered how we flew around the buildings and underneath the bridges and stuff, and it was great. The technology enhanced tremendously since then, but sometimes they do too much CGI, and sometimes there's things you can do with holograms now that are going to be phenomenal. You know, we're looking to do another Superman movie and bring back Christopher Reeve and the three villains. Then we have a storyline that's going to be a mind blower. It's a terrific storyline. It's going to work really well. So there's a lot of things that we're looking to do that to enhance the film, you know, for entertainment for people. You know.
Mm-hmm. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, which is the name of the game.
And you've done all kinds of different types of movies, from sci-fi to war movies, and you know, all kinds of. What would you say your favorite genre is? I
really liked the film I did, Farewell My Lovely, with Mitchum. It was a 40s period. It was a great script. He was great to work with, and we had a great cast. Hired Dean Stanton and John Ireland, and there was Charlotte Rampling. We just had a great cast, and we had a great crew, and it worked out really well. You know, it was, and the Superman movies were great
Mm-hmm.
because we knew when we were doing them they were going to be that good, and they've stood up all these years, and the stuff they're doing today doesn't touch them. In
Right,
comparison. And I don't think they'll find another Christopher Reeve. Richard Donner did an amazing job with him. I mean, that's the first big movie he ever did, but Donner was an amazing director,
Mm-hmm.
and he got a performance out of Chris to do Superman and Clark Kent it was just spot on. It just really worked well, so
Yeah.
it had to be the first two movies were brilliant.
That's just brilliant. That's amazing. Like, to
You
talk to
King
somebody.
Kong was a great movie. Kong was a good movie with Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good movie. Dragnet was a great film with Danny Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Right. Yeah. I bet that one was fun. Was there any fun behind the scenes stories with that one?
Oh, God, yeah. Danny Aykroyd you could watch that movie 50 times and you still would miss some of his one-liners.
I'm sure.
He's such a fun guy to work with. And Tom Hanks, it was a breakthrough movie for Hanks, and Tom's a great guy, and he's a great actor. So we had a lot of fun doing the movie.
Did you three get into any trouble behind the scenes?
No, man. Everybody worked on that film very well. It just worked out. It was a night. Tom Mankiewicz was the director. And I knew him from Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good deal. It was a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot.
That's cool. And so you kind of touched on it earlier a little bit, and you were talking about your book and adapting that into a movie. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit as to what that book's about?
My father was probably one of the more sincere Italians that come into the country. He was partners with Meyer Lansky and Costello and Charlie Luciana and Albert Anastasia. He was head of a little company called Murder Incorporated. And it was a time when what we've done is, instead of just doing a mob deal, we show how the country, like from 1900 on to 1960, the government, industry, the unions, and organized crime were all partners. They all helped each other. And the organized crime element in those days, a lot of the illicit monies they made, they invested back into the growth of the country. They created a lot of jobs. The waterfronts they controlled, construction companies. They put a lot of people to work because they invested in GE, and they invested in insurance companies, and they invested in the growth of a nation. Mm-hmm. A lot of the jobs they created was because their initiation into America was the money came from loan sharking and gambling and extortion, but they weren't into drugs in the beginning. And they all interfaced and worked together. And, the streets were safer. When I was a boy being raised in Philadelphia, we never locked our front door,
Right.
And kids played in the street from sun up to sundown, and you could leave baby prams out front. People actually, in row homes in the cities, it was so hot in the summertime, who had air conditioner? People slept outside in their yards. They set up cots and little tents. And the safety of people, there was no invasion of homes or drive-by shootings or any of that jazz. Neighborhoods were a lot safer. It was a whole different element of things when certain people ran the streets and took care of their neighborhoods.
Dang. Yeah,
so
that's crazy
to
think about.
Today.
Yeah, for real. So
today you're lucky you're walking down the street, people drive by and shoot people.
Right. Yeah.
It's gotten kind of really crazy, it's like nuts.
Yeah. Who will be playing the role of your dad in that movie? Is that going to be you?
I know we're looking at that character, and the book is really kind of good because it's from my childhood up into my father's death, and then we tell the truth about the Kennedy assassination,
Okay.
and it's going to open a lot of people's minds. And there's a lot of truth we're going to tell about certain things that happened in the country that everyone's looked for answers for. And
Wow.
I look at a movie. I look at a movie they just did, The Irishman, which is 50% of his total bull, Hollywood.
Oh, really?
Uh, well, Scorsese answered questions about who shot Hoffa and who shot Joe Gallo, and the answers were lies because the guy that Frank Sheeran, I knew Frank Sheeran well. He was from Philadelphia, and he never shot Hoffa and he never shot Joe Gallo. But he did work with Russell Buffalino. I knew Russell Buffalino well. And Buffalino's brother, Billy Buffalino, was Jimmy Hoffa's lawyer. And I
Oh,
knew Jimmy Hoffa very well. So the story that they told in The Irishman is about 50% true. Buffalino was a powerful guy. He was a political don. He was very well connected to Washington. But he came originally from Buffalo, and Buffalo was run by the Magadadino family, who were cousins of mine. So I knew Russell quite well, and he was a very intelligent guy, made a lot of money, but he was the political connection. And he lived in
gotcha.
Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. But when I seen the movie, I mean, how do you have Bobby De Niro play Frank Sheeran? Frank Sheeran was my size. He was about 6'4",
Oh,
and
wow.
he was and De Niro played him with huge lifts on his shoes, but even that wouldn't give him the height. And how do you get Al Pacino to play Jimmy Hoffa? Al Pacino looks Italian. Hoffa didn't look Italian. Hoffa would be turning over in his grave, for God's sake. You
Oh
know,
my gosh, yeah.
Joe Pesci, Joe Pesci did a great job playing Russell, but Russell was a little bit more stylish than that. And Russell was a very bright guy. I liked Russell a lot.
Gotcha. Dang.
So so what we're going to do is open the doors up and tell the truth how people were interfaced in the development of the greatness of our country.
Right. Yeah, I think that's
And,
a fact that people kind of gloss over because they don't want to admit that it had anything to do with the mob at all.
well, that's because of the picture that's was painted. And you take a look at the Kennedys, and they made this whole Camelot deal. And if you wanted to say who was the one person that would be responsible for the death of Jack Kennedy, it was his father. His
Hmm.
father made a tremendous amount of enemies, and his father, and this is a true fact, Jack Kennedy would not have lived out his term. He was dying of 4 different diseases. They used to shoot him up every day because
Oh,
one of the diseases he had was the Addison's disease, which is deterioration of your whole spinal cord, your back. So he was in a lot of pain, and he was a great politician. But his father, you got to go back to the story of Joe Kennedy, and Joe Kennedy was a very, very bright banker, and he married a very powerful family when he married Rose Fitzgerald. Her father, Honey Fitzgerald, ran Boston. He controlled the Boston Harbor. He was controlled the bank. He was the Boston. He was a very powerful man. And Joe Kennedy opened up a bootlegging business up in Canada in the 20s with a guy from New Jersey who owned Fleischmann Liquor, and they owned a warehouse, and they were bootlegging into America because Honey Fitzgerald got all the booze from Scotland and Ireland and all. He brought all that whiskey into Boston, and Joe Kennedy was taking it up into Canada and then bringing it back down into the country, bootlegging.
dang.
And they stole a load of booze that belonged to a gang called the Purple Gang one time, and they said he was a dead man. And he ran to his father-in-law, and his father-in-law said, I can't help you. So he had to go to Chicago, and the first Don of Chicago sat him down and said, you're a really great earner, kid. He said, you go back to Boston, and I'll take care of the Purple Gang, but you belong to us now. So he was under thumb to Chicago for years. I mean, they sent him to Hollywood. A lot of people don't even notice it. They sent him out to Hollywood. He got hooked up with Randolph Hearst, and he was responsible. Joe was a very bright guy. He was responsible for the formation of RKO Studios because he put together the Jewish theater owners.
Oh.
And he was a banker. And the industry was controlled by a mob because we controlled the cinematographers union. So, and Wasserman, who came later in life, he was our guy. They brought him out he originally started from Cleveland, then he went to Chicago, and they sent him to California to run Universal Studios.
Wow.
There's a lot of things that people, had no understanding of that need truth. A lot of truth needs to be told. We're going to do it. That's great. The television series will make Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire look like children games. Like we're going to really open up the country to different places, and the series will run from place to place, and it'll tell a lot of truth. So it's going to be quite good.
Yeah, that would be amazing because, almost everything you just talked about, I had no idea of. So I feel like a lot of people out there would say the same thing. So I think that's going to be amazing.
If you ever looked at the history of the Kennedy family, and then Joe Kennedy in 1926, America was becoming a superpower. After World War I, we got into the development of war surplus. We started manufacturing because we had an army, a navy, and an air force, and we were a power to be reckoned with. So we started manufacturing, which took a lot of jobs away from Europe. And you have to understand that when this country started out and the growth of the country was financed by Europe. 85% of the revenue stream that was invested in America came through the Bank of England through the Geneva set down of all the powerhouses of revenue, and they invested in America.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1926, they felt they weren't getting their returns back properly, and that America was taking jobs away because we started manufacturing war surplus. And so there was a place called the Hamilton Club, which was a political stronghold of Chicago, which was like the New York Athletic Club in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys were powerhouse, and they grabbed Joe Kennedy one day and they said, we want you to create a short sell. Again, they aimed it at 30 companies out of Europe that were screaming and hollering at us, not giving them back enough money and stuff. So they created the short sell, and the short sell worked extremely well. And they did a test thing. Joe Kennedy stole $5 million in common share stock out of Pathé Newsreel one day. No one ever caught it or saw it. So they said to him, wow, what a great job. And then they give him the job to do the short sell, and he does the short sell. And they did it for a week. They made a fortune. They took off a couple of days. They were coming back, but in the time of that, the country panicked, and we had what you call the crash and the depression. And it wasn't aimed.
Okay.
It was the result of it. And when the crash was over, the government said to Joe Kennedy, well, you did such a great job there for us. Now we want you to rebuild the SEC, because they knew all those companies in Europe had to reinvest to get their money back in America. And one of the companies that was bankrupt was a bank company that was owned by the Rothschilds that was run by Blackjack Bouvier, who was Jackie Kennedy's father. And he and his uncle and his father went bankrupt, and he drank himself to death. And her mother never forgave the Kennedys for that. And she groomed her daughter to marry Jack Kennedy.
Wow.
To get her money. And there's just so many stories that have never been truly told. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It sounds
Kennedy,
like
you know,
sounds
Bill
like you're
Kennedy
sitting on a
was the-
gold mine.
So I think it's going to work. I mean, the public loves the truth, and they're so tired of being fed stories by the media that no one ever tells the truth. So it's time, and there's a lot of people that lived, still alive, that lived through these time frames, that saw things and always wondered why the real truth was never told.
Right.
So we have an audience. We have an audience for films and television from 100 all the way down to 16, because they're stories that were passed down through generations from family to family that no one ever talks about. They were things that were talked about from grandfathers to sons to their sons to their sons. Everybody has stories that their families told them of things that happened when they were growing up, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
And the changes that happened in the country. So it's going to be quite enlightening. It's quite good.
Yeah. I can't wait to check that out whenever it all gets finalized.
There's a book called Family Legacy. It's on Amazon. It worked, and it's a great read, actually.
Yeah. So we're approaching the end of my show here, actually, if you can believe it or not. We booked it right through that time, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity. Is there anywhere that people could kind of follow along with what you got going on? Like, do you have any Facebook pages, or is there websites they should go to?
FamilyLegacyTheNovel.com is a good site.
Okay.
And then we have Anastasia Media Group is going up. That's who's building the studio and films that we're going to do. And we've got several different films that we're going to come out with that are quite good. And it's, we've been pretty busy.
Cool. Sounds great. Sounds like people are just going to have to get on there, check it out, follow that along. But before I wrap things up for good, I just want to say that, you know, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on and kind of shed some light on some things that have been hidden in the background there for a while. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you to all the listeners who tuned in and checked all this out. And make sure to go and check out the website and order that book. Get some knowledge. Get you some knowledge. We will see you all later. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, creatures of all ages, what an amazing show. Thank you for lending an ear and joining us. I'm the host, Ray Rumsey, and if you want to hear more interviews, simply head to anywhere podcasts are heard, Facebook or Twitter, and search The Leo Effects, with an A, not an E. If you'd like to hear me doing silly voices and making a general fool of myself, head over to Shattered Dungeons on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We live stream every Tuesday night. More projects are in the works. For now, stay tuned for more interviews. To book yourself as a guest, you can head to theleoeffects.wixsite.com/podcast or send me an email at theleoeffects@gmail.com. Remember, this has been The Leo Effects, and great shows require great listeners, just like you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.